Right. Okay, next up is approval of the agenda for tonight's board meeting. I saw Warren first. I'll take the motion from Warren, second from Andrew. Any discussion of the agenda? All in favor? 400. We are underway. First item, as always, is resident remarks. If we have any, well, we don't have any residents in the room. If we have any residents online who would like to make remarks to the board, please raise your hand in Zoom and we'll call on you and give you up to 3 minutes. Going once, going twice. No remarks tonight. All right. Well, I am very, 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 very happy about our item of new business. I'm pleased to welcome Paul Cavanaugh, who is the Senior Vice President and Director of Engineering and Construction for Fisher, Collins and Carter. And I don't know if Jennifer Wellen is on.
Jen couldn't make it. She had a family pop-up.
Okay, no problem. Okay. So Mr. Cavanaugh is here to give us an update on something we've been eagerly awaiting, and that is the proposed renovations and addition to Oakland Mills Middle School. Mr. Cavanaugh, I'll happily turn it over to you.
No, I really appreciate your time and the staff's time helping me get on to the agenda. Is it possible to share the exhibit I sent, or should I? Oh, there we go. Thank you very much.
Coming up now, yes.
Yep, thank you. So with the programming at the middle school, and an increase in the capacity. The architect has worked with Howard County Public Schools to include a 2-story addition towards the Santiago Road side of the site and include bump outs to the front of the existing building to create the capacity for the additional programming, larger band, chorus, and dance programs, along with computer labs. It's really an update to today's standards, quite frankly. We are providing, and hopefully will alleviate a good bit of congestion by separating the bus loop from the parent drop-off. Again, and not everything in Columbia ages well, and the school sites are just one of them. So we're providing a separate bus loop, a dedicated parent drop-off, additional parking to the site, and additionally, I don't have to tell the board how pedestrian friendly Columbia is. We're also maintaining all the pedestrian connections to the school. Howard County's standard road improvements, and I'm a longtime county resident, not in Oakland Mills, but the one thing Howard County has done is upgraded their road standards to include a 10-foot pedestrian walkway. It's a county requirement. I'll reserve judgment to see how well it fits into old Newtown zoning and Columbia, but it's the new county standard. So the front of the school is going to have a 10-foot shared use pathway. And the one other thing I just wanted to point out would be that there's 2 temporary classrooms located in the current multi-purpose field. Those are needed and will be there for the first 2 years of construction. They're needed for the swing space to allow the students to continue the education program while the addition and interior renovations go on. Once the addition is completed and ready for occupancy, Certainly one of the modulars will be moved. They may maintain a little bit of swing space for a short period while the rest of the interior renovation is completed. But at the completion of the project, those modulars won't be there, and the multi-purpose field will be able to return back to the community. So again, in summary, we're up, the existing school site did not have stormwater management. We are providing stormwater management for the existing and proposed impervious areas. The landscaping is being maintained, although the perimeter landscaping is being maintained to a large extent. And, some of the other county requirements and improvements we're adding to help the county utility water system. We're looping a water line all the way up to Thunder Hill Road, and the fire department is getting a full access to the site. It goes past the proposed backstop. It's a grass paver support. So grass will grow over it, but also be able to support the fire trucks. And I apologize, I ran through my list pretty quickly. I'm happy to answer any questions, but we're real happy with the progress we've made. We're very close to getting county approvals. One next step, there will be another public meeting with the Howard County Planning Board that will be advertised. So there'll be more opportunities for community input. And again, I do appreciate your time and happy to answer any questions regarding the plan.
Thank you, Mr. Kavanaugh. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, yes, I have a few, so I don't want to monopolize time, so I'll wait until everybody else asks theirs.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, actually,
Okay, sure.
just to make sure we're all seeing the same thing. From the way I understand things and looking at this, the addition is effectively going to go where the current blacktop basketball courts are. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is the blacktop then being moved to the east side of the school between the I guess between the east wall of the school and the high school football field? Or is that?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
That's where the basketball courts are getting relocated there. And the cafeteria ends up being
That's one of the
on that side of the building, so it marries up with the recreation recess.
Great.
One other question I had. So the current path to the campus or to the school from Santiago comes through the back and comes to the west side of the school. Is that path being relocated a little bit further down Santiago to come to the east side of the school and terminate at the courts? Is that what we're seeing there?
Yes, that the call it the little shading reflects the adjustment in the path.
Okay.
But the pedestrian crossing maintains the same location.
Okay.
Is there, the kids are gonna, they're
Yeah,
not gonna use the crosswalk if the path is open.
Right.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I don't know how much coordination there's been with the the roads folks, but I was seeing the same thing. When those don't align, I'm gonna bet we're gonna have kids just darting across where that path ends. Has there been any conversation about relocating the crosswalk too?
Well, the shading does end there, but it connects to the existing pathway.
No, we're talking about the crosswalk on Santiago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So currently, I believe the crosswalk on Santiago aligns with the current path to the school.
Current sidewalk to the school.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a sidewalk.
Right.
Yes.
So the point Karen and I are making is, kids being kids, if they follow this new path to Santiago and they're trying to go across, they're not gonna turn left and then cross, they're just gonna cross. So has there been any discussion about just relocating the crosswalk so that it
Okay.
aligns with the path?
So the wide shading, that is the fire lane, which is a grass.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
that's the
oh,
fire
oh,
lane.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yes.
Oh, so that's actually what I was asking about. I thought
Okay.
that was the new path. Okay.
Right, no, I follow you now.
Okay.
So yeah, the existing sidewalk asphalt pathway is maintained,
Oh, okay.
but
okay, no issues then.
Okay.
but adjusted around the, it moves away from the addition.
Okay. All right. Now I follow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Never mind about moving the crosswalk. It's in the perfect place.
Yeah.
I'll hand it over to Bill now.
Okay. Well, I
Thank
have
you.
a few questions here.
Yes, sir.
On the map, between the permanent school building and the portable that's closest to the bus loop, there
Yes.
looks like there's some kind of underground 6-inch PVC piping under there in a grid.
Oh, well spotted, Bill.
Yeah,
Are you
yeah.
reading me where we are?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is that a water retention area? What is that PVC pipe there in a grid? It's fingers. It's about 7 fingers underground. It looks like. What is the function of that area?
Yeah, so that will be one of the micro bioretention facilities. It'll be approximately 1.5 foot depression that it does. It collects the runoff from the roofs and infiltrates through the media, and then the manifold system is a perforated pipe system that will take water and direct it to the storm drain system. So yeah, that's one of the stormwater management facilities. There's the other substantial one is up by Santiago, and another bioretention facility is behind the play area in between the track and the school. So those are all three of the stormwater management
Those are all low
facilities.
points that get swampy now.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, I see them. Now, in the diagram, it looks like only half of the fingers in the underground pipes are actually connected to the sewer line. The other 3 fingers look like they have no connection. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. And
I need to open the door.
I'll defer my professional opinions, but that's the Howard County standard detail. So there's a small standpipe. If you could picture the 6-inch atrium grates that you might see in a small yard drain.
Yes.
So the idea is the larger rain events fill up, go into those atriums, go down to perforated pipe, fill up the stone, and then from the stone it goes to the next set of perforated pipes that goes to the outfall.
Okay.
My engineering preference is I would like them connected, but Howard County feels like having them not connected is better. So
Okay, yes, because I was of the same mind that you are, is if half the fingers are connected, connect the other half.
right. The
And-
theory
and
is the theory is it fills up the stone reservoir underneath. Some of the water and most of the water is still going to infiltrate into the ground. But in the event that it needs to get to the outlet, it's supposed to travel through the stone to the next set of perforated pipes.
Okay, great. Then the big water retention area is up on San Diego in the northwest corner of the property there, and it almost looks like the way the topography lines are drawn, almost looks like an amphitheater effect up there, but that's mandatory when you do redo the school, that water retention is a mandatory area.
Yes,
Okay, and I see the underground piping going to it, so yes, I understand that. The 2 portable trailers, by the time the whole project's done, those will be gone, that'll be good. Cause I look at this, well, I was an engineer for Verizon for 13 years, and I look at this whole site from several different points of view. Water retention, the best use of the land, you've got a 2-story addition on where the existing courts are, that's great, that saves land. I look at this also from a mowed lawn recreation point of view, so I'm glad to see that the portable trailers will be gone. You'll have that full multi-purpose field for use by the community, because a lot of teams practice there. I practice with my soccer team there, and
right.
I want to try to preserve as much mowed grass as possible for recreation, given that depending on what study you look at, 30 to 50% of kids in grade school and middle school are obese. So I want to preserve as much recreational area as possible. And then I have one question about the emergency access road, which is in the elbow of Santiago Road. It is going to be grass, but it also will have pavers in the dirt. Is that correct?
It still gets topsoiled, so it'll be largely grass and then supported with a grid and stone section that is strong enough to hold a fire truck, hopefully never driving on it. But yes, it is a grass area and it will have some edging, so the fire department is clearly delineated. There'll be signage, and we're working through those final details with the fire department.
Okay, here's my point. It's going to ruin some play area there, having stones there. Okay, number one, it's going to ruin a lot of good play area there, because you can't play on the stones there, fall, you get hurt. Number one. Number two is, if it's not required by law, I would like to see it taken out. Number three, if you work with the fire department over in Long Reach is where most of the fire engines will come from. They'll ride down past Jeffrey Hill Elementary to the roundabout there, over to the roundabout at Bland Air, come down south on Oakland Mills, and then they'll go east on Kilimanjaro and come in Kilimanjaro Road. So there are very few emergencies at the school every year, number one. Number two, most likely the emergency vehicles are going to use existing roadways and not the elbow at Santiago to get access. So my personal opinion is number one, not many emergencies, won't be used often, if at all, because number two, the emergency vehicles it's easier access coming down Kilimanjaro. Number three, it really hampers the usability for recreation of that mowed area. And number four, it's an expense that to me is not necessary. That to me, I'd highly recommend getting rid of that emergency roadway, leave it all mowed grass for kids. That land will be used far more often by kids playing sports than it will be by a fire engine. So if you're looking at a return on investment in the land, you'll get a greater return on investment for play for kids, as opposed to a emergency road that won't be used by fire trucks. So if it isn't dictated by law, I highly recommend getting rid of it, because the fire department, they're at Long Reach, they're not going to use it. They're going to come down Kilimanjaro because it's just faster to do it that way.
Yeah, it's another time we agree.
Banneker would come up Stephen Forest and turn on Kilimanjaro.
And I have had those conversations with the fire department, and I often joke that, and I agree with you, their access, and you can see the connectivity between the parking lot and the basketball court that then gets them access to the addition for fire apparatus. And I often make the joke that the fire trucks have reverse for a reason, but the connectivity is so that the fire department doesn't have to back out of the site. And I'll provide the board the detail of that access, because it is a grass covered access that will have 2 to 4 inches of topsoil and grass growing on it. But, and then in the event of an emergency, the fire truck will be able to not have to use reverse. And I couldn't agree with you all more on the points you made.
Let me ask you this, the stone pavers, they will not be underneath 2 or 3 inches of topsoil, is that correct?
No, they actually will be.
The stone
the-
pavers will be under grass?
Well,
Here's
it's not,
my point. Here's my
right.
point. If this would look like to the naked eye as being all grass, but 2, 3 inches under the grass, there are stone pavers to support weight, then people would be able to use it safely and we'd be great, okay?
Yeah. And that's
And
what
that's-
I want to send you the details so you can see it, but that's the intent is,
Okay,
and it's the same emergency access that's at the new district courthouse, which you can't tell that and it's not like a brick paver section. It's a plastic grid that supports, and I'm going to use a term called 57 stones. So they're like 3/4 inch stones. If I could hold up a stone, everybody would go, oh yeah, that's what it is. So
I've seen them. I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, so it's a stone underlane, structurally supported road that does have, to the naked eye, a grass top.
Great, because when you said the plastic grid, I've seen those where I think BGE has several of those. I think they have one at Stevens Forest Elementary School in the circle at Stevens Forest Elementary School next to the utility pedestals.
they
I
do.
think there's
It's
a
just not-
plastic
it's
grid,
not
it's
covered
stone,
in
but it's
several
not
inches
covered
of
with
soil.
grass.
Yeah,
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
so you got the plastic grid, the 3/4 inch stone, and that's the roadway, and then you cover that over with 3, 4 inches of dirt and mowed grass so that nobody knows the road is there. That's great, because then you've now got a win-win situation where the fire trucks have what they want and the community still sees mowed grass, the teams still practice there. We haven't lost any play space. So if
Right.
that's reality, then I'm fine with that.
Yes, and that's exactly was our goal. Agree with you 100%. And it's a little hard to see. If you could zoom in just slightly into where the backstop area is. There's up above the addition towards the fire lane, towards the bend in Santiago, and then zoom in towards the backstop. There's signage there. And again, I put that close to the backstop to keep the field open. It'll help the fire department make sure they're lined up and be able to get out to Santiago, in the very slim chance that they're back there.
Yeah, that's great, because we're getting multiple use of the same lands, just like you're doing a
Right.
2-story addition. You're getting a best use of the land by going vertical as opposed to horizontal. You're not chewing up as much land. And then you get lots of different uses of the same space, which is great. Absolutely
Yes,
great.
sir.
So this is really good. Those are my concerns. And again, I come from the point of view of people using it for recreation, because land in Howard County is at a premium. It's very scarce. I do before and after school care at Gorman Crossing Elementary School. And the land there is used by the residents in the area because they have big houses on small lots, no play area in the neighborhood. They all go over to Gorman Crossing and use that as their play area. So
Right.
whatever we can do to preserve play area, I really appreciate. So Paul, you answered all my questions and you're doing a great job. I appreciate it.
No, and I do. I appreciate your guys' time and thoughtful comments.
Any other questions?
Well, this was a good presentation. Thank you.
Yes.
And Paul, if you could send that information to our village manager about that fire roadway, and then she could disseminate it to the board members, I'd appreciate it.
No,
Thank you.
I will get you that just to dot that I and cross that T. And again, if we're happy, the architect, you know how it is. The civil engineers, we're way ahead of the architect. You know, I'm happy to, at any request, have them present when we're finished the elevations on this. And like I said, there will be an advertisement for the project going to the Howard County Planning Board.
No, I appreciate it because my grandfather was a builder here in Howard County, built several buildings on Main Street. His son was a civil engineer, and I've sat in construction trailers and listened in on conversations between the engineers and the architects and the blueprints. So I appreciate all you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you for coming in and presenting to us. We have waited many years for this. We're very excited about this. If you could, sneak in one for the high school and sneak that by the county.
No, I'm looking forward to being back in front of you guys in not too long of a time frame, so that we can talk about the improvements to the high school.
We're looking forward to it as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank
Have
you,
a great
Paul.
night.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is looking great, Jonathan.
Good questions.
Yeah.
Great.
I still think before it all changes, we should nominate that building as the ugliest inside and out in all of Columbia.
Yeah.
Like the middle school there.
That is, I
Oh, yeah.
mean,
Oh, yeah. I
what
agree.
were they thinking? And
I agree. I agree. I agree.
the insides, oh,
I agree.
Does the inside just look terrible now? I don't think of it
The
as a
inside-
building when I was a little kid.
I mean, the custodians take great care of it. Everything's clean, everything's nice. It's just that probably when you went there, it was the open floor plan,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Well, it's no longer an open floor plan. So,
Right.
they threw up a lot of cheap
Yeah.
walls over the years. So
They
you
did
have,
the
you
same
have
thing at
rooms
my
inside of
elementary school, yeah.
rooms and everything's kind of beat up and there are no windows. There are virtually no windows. The only windows are on the outside and they're up at the ceiling in the science wing.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
And many of those windows were added. Okay,
Yes.
they were not original.
I mean,
Actually-
those open floor plans were so loud. I totally
Yeah.
get why they had to get rid of them, but,
when I've gone there for like, the back to school meet the teacher nights, there are actually some rooms where I'm just in there for like the 10-minute meet the teacher thing, sitting at a desk and I just sit there thinking, I don't know how my kids and
How
these
do the
other
kids
kids
survive
sitting here
this?
for like an hour period. I'm just uncomfortable because I feel the building is like, it's just closing in on me because of the way they had to turn it. They had to turn open space into enclosed space by just throwing up walls where they could. And
Yep.
literally they're classrooms that you can only access by walking through someone else's classroom. So,
It's
yeah.
horrible.
It is, it's
Oh, yeah.
awful. And I just find it hideous on the outside, but
Oh,
whatever,
yeah.
that's taste.
it's not a
but
nice
That's a
looking,
matter of
it's not
taste.
like, you're not looking at it and going, ooh.
No.
Yeah. It's like,
Right, that's
And
a true
that
story.
is actually one of the things they're taking care of. They're gonna expand the front office. Cause they don't have adequate front office space and make like a true, front entrance, security
Mhm.
vestibule,
When you
all
get
that
sent to
fun
the
stuff.
office, they
Yeah.
can make the chairs more comfortable.
All right, well, that was all the new or old business we had, so I'm gonna go to the board chair report. So I think as you all know, we have Hip Hop Chicken open. We have a grand opening at the 7-Eleven on the 30th and 31st with the ribbon cutting on the 30th. When I got the invitation for the grand opening, I did write back and say, you still having that soft opening? And they confirmed the soft opening is a week from today,
Oh,
on the
okay.
21st. So, we'll be able to go I guess, get gas and car washes and Twinkies in a week.
Oh, okay, so the soft opening is
Soft opening is
21st.
the 21st, yes. I wouldn't recommend going for a car wash that day because I just learned it's gonna be 12 degrees
Oh,
for
yeah,
the
the
high,
polar
but
vortex is coming to kill
yeah.
us.
Everybody does now.
Well,
Yeah.
I wouldn't take it that day or you will be driving an ice
Ice
cube. when
Right.
you pull out of
Ice
the
will be
car.
I don't want to get a Slurpee then.
So, so hey, that's all good news. In other news, as you know, after the villages sent the letter about the management contracts to CA, Kevin McAlilly from Wild Lake, Brad Butler from Owen Brown, and I were nominated to be our team to go in and talk to CA's leadership. We had the meeting yesterday afternoon at CA headquarters with Sean, Susan, and John. So President, CFO, General Counsel, Chief Counsel, is it Chief Counsel or General Counsel?
I think it's General
I
Counsel.
I hate to get his
I think it's
title wrong,
general.
but General
I think
Counsel,
it's
okay.
general.
And we weren't really there to discuss the whole letter. We were there to discuss kind of a sub point of that. And that was that funding issue. So if you look at CA's funding through the assessment share to the villages from 2019 to present, it has dropped relative to what CA is bringing in annual
Mhm.
charge.
Mhm.
So I mean, obviously it recovered, some from when they cut it severely at COVID, but it never really recovered all the way. And the management contract is not, that's the one thing the management contract doesn't lock in. Each year, the CA board passes a budget. Part of that budget is the assessment share or grant, as they like to call it, going to the villages. So what we were there to ask as part of this process, at a strategic level, because this requires the top levels of CA and the board to agree, was that we, as part of the contract, lock in some kind of formula so that there's predictability, the village assessment share will be X% of, annual charge revenue, for example. And hopefully getting that back up to where we were and have that aligned with the contract. So there's some, everything else in the contract is set. Why not that? So, that's what we started off with. And really the first question we got from Sean was, well, why? Like, what is it you can't do under the current way it works? We've been doing it this way for 50 or 60 years. And, it's hard to say exactly what we can't do because we didn't necessarily come in knowing what every village is doing with its budget or, what trade-offs villages have made. But, the point we kind of reiterated was, well, it's better for all of us if we have some predictability. It's obviously better for the villages because everything else in the contract is predictable except the dollars and cents. And CA is collecting basically HOA dues on our behalf from our members, and then dispersing to us. So it would be helpful to have that predictability. And then I made the point that I think there's also a benefit to CA in having that predictability because it's one more constant in the budget, one less variable they have to work with as they're working with all the other variables in the budget. I'm gonna say they didn't quite see it that way, and they kind of kept coming back to, but what would you do with that? Why do you really need it? What is it you can't do now that that you would do with that? Which is a little difficult to say. We gave examples, things like that. Sean also seems really fixed on, first we should make sure that, villages are, maximizing revenue from space. And I said,
What does that
I said,
mean?
I said, well, I'd like to better understand, maximizing revenue, because if you're saying what I think you're saying, I'm gonna be the first to admit, in Oakland Mills, we don't necessarily maximize revenue from the space. I said, Stevens Far as neighborhood center, I said, we don't, because the village in Howard is a nonprofit that serves more than Oakland Mills, serves all of Columbia and Howard County, we don't necessarily, collect all we could collect if we were just doing a regular commercial real estate transaction for their headquarters. And he kind of said, well, see, there's like, there's a choice you made, why should you get more share from that? So it was kind of interesting because on the one hand, they kept going back to why do you want to fix what's worked for 50 or 60 years? But on the other hand, it was, but why do you need what you used to get? Well, we used to get that for 50 or 60 years. Why not just lock it in? And another thing that was going through my head, but I didn't want to get out of scope, but I said this to Kevin and Brad when we walked out, was, if you remember, one of the things we said in our letter was, why do we have to go through this every 5 years with the whole concept of the management contract? Why don't we just lock in something longer term? So the whole time they were saying that, I kept thinking, then why do we do this every 5 years? Never mind the funding. Why do we even do the contract every 5 years? If this has worked for 50 or 60 years,
Right.
why do we go through a whole contract negotiate? But that was a bit out of scope for what we were talking about. So, I kind of felt like we weren't getting very far, and then something hit me. And I turned to Brad and Kevin, I said, hey, guys, I want to say something. And I looked at Sean and everyone, I said, I'm speaking for me right now. Like, the chairs haven't talked about this, village boards haven't talked about it, but I have a thought, and I want to see your reaction before we even bring it back to everyone else. And they went, yeah. I said, I can understand, why there might be some discomfort in locking something in because the future can be unpredictable. Just like with COVID, we thought we were getting an amount and then we didn't. Things happen. I said, but, one of the things they have been talking to us about is transparency in the budget process and providing greater transparency. And that's why they want more disclosure from us, because they have fiduciary responsibility to know that they're giving, the money that they've collected to responsible villages, et cetera. I said, so in the interest of that transparency, what do you think of writing something into the contract that says this formula that we'd like to come up, with, that says X percentage of, revenue from assessment share will be the initial proposal at the annual CA budget. That way, the board still has the right to vote on the final amount, but if you start from an amount, then it's very transparent why the board might be either chipping away to that or adding to that, because they're going to have to discuss the other trade-offs, to change that funding level. And actually, Susan looked up and she goes, I was thinking something very similar. So, I don't think we're ever going to get
Right.
the top three, staff level leadership to come around to say, yeah, we'd like to go to the board and recommend that we write the formula into the contract, and this is what you get. Maybe there's a chance that we could go to that other one, and then, sorry, Karen, but it forces the board into some transparency, because if they're gonna deviate from that, they're gonna have some discussion about why they're deviating and, where else they feel those funds are better used. So we kind of left the discussion agreeing that, Brad, Kevin, and I would first of all communicate back to our respective villages, to the other chairs, and then try to put our heads together to put something, like that proposal together with more specificity, because Sean wanted to see more specificity and send that back to him. So obviously there hasn't been time to do that today because we all had to go back to our day jobs, but that's sort of where we left things. So, it was a pleasant and cordial meeting, and I think they understand, deep down in their hearts why we're saying what we're saying, but they also kind of took the dollars and cents perspective of, like, well, what is it that you can't do because you don't have those funds that you used to have before COVID? And I could come up with a couple of examples here, Brad could, Kevin, but we couldn't speak for all the villages. And if we had to, in fact, Brigitte, one of the things I was going to talk to you about was, if we need it in our back pocket, let's not only come up with a list of like maybe things we don't do now or do less of now than we did before, but also like if we project out in inflation and don't project that our increases keep pace with, CA's revenue increases and inflation, other things where we would have to cut back. I know one of the things you've already brought up, and I didn't mention this, was just, we haven't been able to keep up with the rising cost of basically bringing people in for our events.
Yeah,
Yeah,
advertising.
well, and on that same note, just because I have to say this, or I might physically explode at this meeting.
Mhm.
However, their idea, and they did ask us how we use our space, how much of our space is rented, and how many days of the week do we rent it? And I gave an average, but an estimated amount of time. But if their idea is to utilize all of the facilities more hours, then with that also comes more staffing, maintaining the buildings better. There's so many things. It's not just a simple
Yes.
answer of, well, yeah, you can utilize the space all you want, but every time somebody else is in this facility, it's wear and tear. Every time the more people that use the restrooms, if we use them all the time, we're gonna have to replace them more. So I'm frustrated because, yeah, a simple answer is, yeah, we absolutely could utilize this space more. During the week, there's open spaces and and I didn't say we couldn't. I just said we don't currently have that many
Is there a high
renters.
demand
Well,
for rental space? Like, that's what I would like to know, is it's not even that, are we just not renting it to people who are out there like demanding rental space? Like, is there?
We have it open
Right,
for any of the time. A lot of the things we get during the week, like Amy said, they want to utilize it for free, which is why we came up with that whole
Right.
Oakland Mills proposal that, we would give a reduced cost. But again, when you're here, it wear and tear on buildings, staffing, cleaning. There's things that go along, and all of those, like you said, have all increased in pricing. To fix the building, it's increased.
Right.
To pay for cleaning, it's increased. To get any new, do the repairs and get all the necessary parts, it's increased
Yeah.
tenfold. So it's not just a simple answer.
So, and, Shonda, his credit says they are looking at this to see how basically CA can, help the villages with the facilities, and I think he is, sincere in what he's saying there. What concerns me is when he keeps, kind of repeating that phrase of, maximizing revenue on the space, because nothing says a nonprofit can't make a profit. But we're also a 501(c)(4) for a reason.
it's a community
And
space.
we're a community association, we're a social welfare organization. We're not, it's not necessarily entirely our mission to maximize revenue, maximize profit. Obviously, we can't be losing. And, maybe I'm getting a little philosophical here because I don't think the villages will ever get to this point, but that's kind of where, if we go back to those strategic planning sessions with the consultants where, all they were worried about was how can CA compete with Planet Fitness and all these other things. One of the things I was thinking to myself because of that other hat I wear during the day was, at what point is CA no longer just engaged in, nonprofit tax exempt activities and in what's called unrelated business income? And I wouldn't want us, doing that either. I mean,
You cannot
what-
run
in-
your, you cannot run your buildings, you cannot run your facilities as if you are a for-profit business.
Right.
It's stated in the IRS guidelines. You're not supposed to be doing that. We should not be running the gyms as if they're
Right.
a for-profit business.
So-
You could get in a lot of trouble for that.
so to me, like the kind of thing we do for the village in Howard is exactly the kind of thing we should be doing to
Yes.
help serve the community and help others serve the community. And, if that's the kind of thing we have to cut, okay, but I'm willing to pin that on reduced assessment share, Sorry, Howard County is losing an amenity. The village in Howard no longer has a home because the choice was we either charge them more or we lose because, CA says you didn't really need more assessment share for that. So it was
be a lost
kind of
time.
that's just an example, but it was kind of a challenging, conversation because, when it comes to money, you can ask anyone, well, what are things you can't do? And anyone can kind of come up with a wish list. We could kind of turn around and say the same thing to CA. Well, what are you doing with the money that you're no longer giving the villages? And they might say, we renovated the gym, and that might be a very popular thing to have done, but I'm not sure where that conversation ends, and I'm not even sure where producing that list, really leads us to
It seems like a
Another
distraction.
outcome, yeah.
It seems like a distraction to me. I'll just speak from personal experience. As a person who used to coach sack soccer, and Bill will know all
Still
this.
doing it.
The open space has been shrinking for the
Mhm.
past several decades. And I can remember, so the team I coached was out in Clarksville, and we would use the fields by Clarksville Middle School, and multiple times I'd have my kids out on that field, some of the only open space in that village, and someone would hand me a permit that they had purchased, they had leased land on the school property for their lacrosse team or their travel soccer team. And my kids had to get off that space. We
Yeah.
had to search and search and search. And even though SAC has that beautiful complex off of Centennial Lane, that was also very hard to get. You had to get your parents together and everybody had to do work, which was challenging to get a group together. So really impacted the kids who were out there who weren't on traveling teams. So what happens is I don't want to call it a marginalized community. The people with less resources don't get access to the space anymore. And
Mhm.
people who can pay get access to the spaces. And we already have a situation, which you guys already know, this bothers me, where like you can't use the tennis courts. Even if you go over to the ice rink, how much free skating is available over at the ice rink? All of these facilities that we have that are supposed to be for the residents, we seem to be more concerned about generating revenue than making sure that the residents have the amenity that their assessments paid for. So this concerns me.
Well, and I didn't want to get into it because, I really didn't,
Right,
I didn't want everything to get picked apart, but I mean, I could have given other examples, right? Different communities have different needs, Statistically, the village of Oakland Mills is the least economically well off of all the villages. We try to fill some gaps through donations. Now, you may not see that as something that makes good business sense, but, again, we're an organization that serves the community.
And we have a
Our
community that has financial needs.
we have a community that has financial needs. Yeah, we could do less of that if the assessment share continues to go down, but
Well, I
then are
think
we really
Brigida-
serving our mission?
Brigida can vouch for this, but I believe that this village center actually does turn a profit because of the rental space. I think there's
Oh, yeah.
there's a few that don't, for various reasons, but Oakland Mills. I mean, I don't know, Brigida, how much money we have to give back each year, but we do turn a profit here.
Lately, we haven't because of.
Well, we try to put it back into
Yeah.
the facility so we don't have to return, which is,
Right.
brings to a whole other point of the negotiations that we're in is.
Yeah.
I've said it before, I all think it's negotiable. That is a word, unless I just created it, but,
Let's go with it.
a lot of times,
Negotiable.
it's asking, and it's not just our village, it's all in discussions, asking us to make wonderful things happen, but then taking a lot of the things that we need to make those things happen away from us, or making like, oh, let me make it a little more challenging for you. Oh, wait, so I think that's where we're all coming from. Is we're just trying to make it, if we all want to work together, we all want to make this the best it can be, and this is how we can go towards the future.
Right. And like I said, the thing that really hit me, but I didn't want to say it because I didn't want it to get, contentious, was if the way we do funding has worked for 50 or 60 years, then why not the rest? Why do we come to the table every 5 years? And why are we basically treated like a contractor?
Right,
It's, and that was one of the points in our letter. It has been a 50 to 60-year relationship for some of the villages. Why do we keep having to do
Columbia
this?
Association cannot give the personal attention to each of the villages that the village
No.
itself gives. There is an intangible there that I
Yeah.
think, especially in this village, people see value in.
Well, and the other thing is, is with a business, as you grow, I lost my train of thought, wait a minute.
You have growing pains.
Oh, darn it. Over 50, my mind goes
With the
blank.
business as you grow.
Yeah, if I think of it, I'll bring it up. It was really good.
Okay.
It was to Karen's point. Oh, see, I knew it would come back to me. A lot of the way, when Columbia was formed, a lot of it was much smaller.
Mhm.
And people knew people. So let's say I wanted to rent this space. Oh yeah, just come on over here, no problem. Because there wasn't as high of a demand. Whether it's the rental space, whether it's, whatever it might be, but we're at a point now where the business can't sustain itself if I'll say, yeah, oh, yeah, you can use it, or we'll just do this. And I think that happens a lot, and not just with, the villages or I think it happens with a lot of organizations that have been in Columbia for a really long time. It's that small town feeling, but our numbers are not small town.
Nope.
And we have a high demand, and now we need to figure out, okay, in order for us all to be able to sustain ourselves, we need a model that's going to work to move into the future, as opposed to a model that is in some ways very outdated. And I feel, like I said, it's not just these two groups. It's my husband and I have this conversation all the time about various organizations we've been a part of. At some point, the generosity of neighbors, you don't necessarily know that neighbor. So you have to make it a little more practical, I guess is a good word to put it.
One thought I have is Sean kept emphasizing the point, maximizing revenue from space. This might be hazardous, but in future communications or meetings is, Sean, let's talk to that point. Let's look at all CA-owned facilities, those managed by CA and those managed by the villages. And what do you want to see? What would you like to see? How should this all happen? And we're all 501c4s. Within those guidelines, what can we expect to do in terms of maximizing revenue? And go full court, okay, as opposed to have him just focus on the village run facilities. Let's look at all CA facilities. How does CA run the CA facilities versus how the villages run CA facilities? What are the differences in terms of investment and maintenance? What are the differences in terms of revenue and how it's generated, et cetera? So let's look at the big picture, okay, and engage him in his turf. And I think it's viable because that's what's actually happening. And it'd be good to have the conversation that maybe you need a new way of looking at all of it, okay? And that might then get a different formula for assigning the grant or the revenue share from the assessments to the villages. So that's just a thought, but take him and go into his ballpark but add all of his facilities too.
Yeah.
So
Well, and that has always been kind of the challenge, right? Basically the villages really have to open their books to the CA. CA does not necessarily do the same for the villages.
And
Now, John, John would say, no, lawyers have been over this. This is the way it has to be. He actually said, this is why, call it what you want, but the assessment share is a grant. We're collecting the money, we're holding the money, we sign fiduciary responsibility agreements. We need to see all this before we give the money to you. So we are granting it to you. Now, I'm no lawyer. Maybe all the villages need to have a lawyer look at this. My understanding has always been CA is collecting this on our behalf because the dues paying members are members of the village associations, not of CA. So that, that it was interesting to hear him
Do
say
you
that
think
and
that's
say,
an
no,
issue
this
for
really
folks?
is a grant. I don't know where it is. I don't know. Yeah. Because if it truly is a grant and all that's true, they could just say no more.
They can say that. That is the problem. They
Yeah.
They could actually say that, Jonathan. And in fact, in one of our meetings, Susan said, well, the villages could set up their own assessment, but the villages would have no way of enforcing that. So you could say that we're gonna assess everybody in Oakland Mills, and then if they didn't pay it, there would be nothing you could really do. So it's a toothless
Mhm.
alternative.
So was she saying that in addition to what they pay Columbia Association?
It was a discussion, I apologize, but I can't remember the full context, but it was something that she threw out there when she was talking to the board several months ago. Yeah, you're wearing it, this isn't the Oakland Mills Village is an HOA, you could assess property, but if you wanted to be able to collect and enforce collection, you'd have to change the charter and bylaws of Oakland Mills, because I think there's no enforcement in the current documents. There's no way to enforce it.
Right, because we write our checks to Columbia Association.
Right.
It's not the Oakland Mills.
Exactly.
But those things could be done. Of course, we probably don't have the money to do that because we're not allowed to build
Right.
reserves or, we're,
Yeah, we don't have.
Well, and they
We don't
make
have
you
a
buy
legal
your
structure.
facilities. There's a whole bunch of stuff that would go along with it.
Yeah.
It'd be a kind of a nightmare.
but anyway,
But I
so that,
I don't know I have not been able to figure out what the end game is here, Jonathan. That's what I've been kind of closely watching this, trying to figure out like,
Mhm.
what's the end game here? Why are they putting this? It just seems to me that they're trying to put more burdens onto the villages. And I'm trying to understand why.
yeah.
Sounds like they're trying to maximize profit.
Could be.
And some of the, some of the additional stuff they're asking us to disclose, I'm not worried, right? I'm not worried that we're doing anything wrong or anything like that. It's just, it seems to be, like Brigitte was saying, additional burden to what end? What has, I know there have been a couple of things that happened that probably would have happened anyway, but has any village, truly as an association really gone that far off the rails where
Right.
CA really needs to see more? If it has, show us, give us the example, give us the risk you're concerned about that, makes you want more stringent reporting in this contract than before. No, we didn't talk, I'm kind of going off into other things now. We didn't talk about that yesterday. We were focused on funding, but they were tying that funding discussion to, this is why we need more disclosure. This isn't really your money until we give it to you. We collect it, we hold it. You have to show us more, to get the money. It's a grant, et cetera. And it just got me thinking of all that other stuff because, on the one hand, it's, why are you asking for this when it's worked for 50 or 60 years? And then on the other hand, they're kind of saying, we need to make sure we trust you.
It's a one-way street.
You
Yeah.
trusted me for 50
It's
years.
very much
whatever.
one-way street.
Yeah,
But even if you get a grant, once you receive that grant, you have to show how you're gonna use it and how
Right.
you might match it. But
Right.
once you receive that grant, you don't have to report it back to the agency that gave it to you. You have to report it to the IRS, but you don't have to report
Right.
it back to the agency that gave it to you. So if in fact it's a grant, why do we have to disclose everything about how we're spending the money? So you
Correct,
can't
correct.
have it both ways.
Right. right.
Correct.
I mean,
What's the legal definition of grant?
yeah,
I think you at times have reporting requirements with grants.
to the agency that,
Yeah,
well, I
mean,
guess that
some-
would make
it
sense,
depends.
yeah, like you're
Some grants
actually
can bind
using
you to
it
reporting,
for
yeah,
what you say,
yeah.
yeah, that's true.
Or the argument could be made that you're reporting on what you did with the past grant, so they can consider you for the next one,
Yeah,
right? It's
Right.
part of the next year's grant application, not following up on last year's grant. I mean, I'm gonna stop now and turn it over to
Mhm.
Karen for the CCR report, unless there are any questions for me.
Nope.
There'll be more to come on this, Kevin, Brad and I have to get together and talk a little bit more, there'll be more.
Okay. Well, my Columbia Council report is gonna be very short because the last meeting we had was on December 12th. I don't know how many of you guys tuned into that, but I did not expect it to pass, but I did move and I got seconded to reduce the play membership to 0, which I will continue working on that. Because CA can certainly afford to give the pool memberships to residents at no extra charge. I actually think there's more that they can do. When they wouldn't do that, one of the things that we've really been pushing for is affordability for residents and making sure that and you can tell from my newsletters, the value proposition here. What are the residents, what is the value to living in Columbia right now?
Mhm.
And as Brigitte said, we're 50 years old. It's not the same place as it was in 1970, when my parents moved in. And so what is the value to the residents? So the other thing we did try to do was to decrease the annual charge, and we of course did not win that either. But we voted on the 3 budget items, which were approving the assessment, approving the cap, and I can't remember the third one, but there were 3 budget votes, and I apologize, you guys, that I can't remember all 3. So it's pretty much status quo for what it was the previous year. And I am very concerned again this year that I do not see how the residents are getting greater value. I see CA getting more money. I see the annual assessment going up by 3 million again in the next fiscal year, and so they're taking in more money. And I'm not sure why the residents should see any increase in cost, but I suspect all those memberships will go up, whether it's a resident or non-resident, by 3% again. When I look at the budget, I think we're supposed to see the actual draft budget in the January 23rd meeting. That's the next meeting that we have. So all eyes on the budget right now, and if you took the pool survey that I had done, I did release the results to that, to the people who asked for the information after they took the survey. So hopefully if you took the survey, you got that email. If not, let me know and I will send you the pool survey results. But I am working on my next newsletter, which hopefully will go out this weekend. And the pool survey results will be included in that, as well as my discussion of the budget. So I have to go back and rewatch that meeting. So, this Thursday, I don't know, Jonathan and Brigitte, are you guys going to the reception at the Turn House?
Yes.
I am
And
not.
Bill, are you going?
No, I can't. I got basketball practice.
Okay, I will be there. I think it will be nice.
Mhm.
That's all I've got.
This is the first one I'll be able to make since COVID.
There you go. Wear a mask. I don't know, are there any questions, comments?
No.
Okay.
All right, Brigida, operations update.
Okay, well, you have the, report in front of you. I was gonna share it on the screen, if this comes up right. There it is. Nothing too exciting, other than what Jonathan said about Hip Hop Chicken and 7-Eleven. We did put out a community email about it, I think, because so many people have been asking questions, so it kind of surprised us when Hip Hop Chicken was all of a sudden open. We didn't know,
We'd given up.
we were a little concerned about all of the snow on the various properties, so we have reached out to all of them, and most of them have been cleared up, but it appears that we're gonna be getting snow again soon. So hopefully they will, now they know. And, Karina has really stayed on top of that. I've been in touch with all the election monitoring committee members, and we are meeting on January 30th to kind of kick off, get to know each other, talk about the process. We have one new person, so the other 3 are returning. But I don't think one of the ones returning has not actually participated in a contested election, so we'll see how that goes. And as a first reminder, all current board members who do want to be on the board next year or serve as the Columbia Council rep, you do have to submit an application and go through the same process. If any of you would like, knowing that you're thinking that you're going to run and you know that your house has to be in compliance, if you would like Carrie to come out, soon, you can email her or you can email me, and she's more than willing to do that. So just keep that in mind. And then of course, Amy is working on lots of events. We have thrown in, she put together quickly this week, a CPR Narcan training on March 26th. We haven't had one of those here in a while, so I just thought it would be good to have available to the community. Yes.
Put out some information about it soon. I haven't had time to.
Yeah, we just did it. So, and then the other lively arts and jazz in the mills aren't until March, but Amy's working hard on those. And lastly, the village managers have not had any further negotiations regarding the management contract. Laura from Hickory Ridge and Steve from Harper's Choice are our 2 village manager representatives, because CA asked for 2 representatives. And they haven't had any further meetings or given any reports back. So that is all. Any questions?
The candidate forms, are they online?
No, not yet. They will be available February 11th.
Okay,
That's when the
thank you.
packets come out.
Yes, yeah, we are
Okay.
working on the packets currently.
Fabulous, thank you.
All right. We're on to the bulletin board. Amy's?
Um, uh, well, today, we, the event coordinators from the other, villages, we try to meet periodically. We didn't meet for 10 months for a little while, but, we did meet again today. And so we had some good conversation about events, especially some of the hard things, some of it's budget, and to tell you the truth, a lot of villages have Kimco for their village center management ownership, and usually get sponsorship from them, but they are not giving sponsorships as much. Some of them are giving contribution, maybe Kimco is doing, but you have to ask ahead of time. I don't know, it's complicated. So they're kind of scrambling. Some of them can, pay for some of their breakfast with Santa. They had to kind of scramble for sponsorships and stuff for that. We haven't had that kind of sponsorship for it, so it hasn't been as much of an issue, but it is another kind of a highlight of like why the budget issues are such a problem, and other villages are starting to feel that as well. With Kimco kind of pulling some of its support. And also just trying to get volunteers. It's hard to get volunteers, so we appreciate volunteers helping out with the various events, and we're working on trying to help each other actually, village to village coordinators, trying to help recruit and advertise as well. So it was a good meeting, good support, good to get to know the new event coordinators as well. So
Very good. Regina?
I do not have anything.
Nope.
All right. I have a couple of things. Just a word of caution, the south south slope of the circle on Stevens Forest Road is becoming a sheet of ice again as it melts during the day and drains and freezes at night. The county is aware of that, and I think they do plan to do something to address it, but it's gonna be another winter season because they're gonna have to address that in the spring. So just, be careful yourselves and tell friends and family and visitors to the community, when you go around that circle, don't go around that too fast if it's below freezing, because you might hit a sheet of ice as you're approaching Farewell Road. The reporter from the Baltimore Banner, who's interviewed me before on our school renovation issues, contacted me yesterday. Interested in seeing if I could do a call to share my thoughts on the budget. So I wrote back to her and I said, "Oh, I'm always happy to talk to you, but I focus more on the capital budget because that's, with my village board hat, that's what we can really, focus on here. The operating budget is really system-wide. We don't get too involved in that unless they're like cutting a program specific to our schools, like when they cut reading recovery at Stevens Forest and Talbot Springs." She goes, no, I understand. I actually want to talk to you about the capital budget, because in his presentation of the operating budget, the superintendent made the point that, there are lots of things he'd like to be able to fund if the money was there, including, deferred maintenance, which is actually capital. I said, okay, I'm happy to talk. So, we'll probably talk at some point tomorrow. I don't know if she's, talking to me and with my village hat on or my other hat on, but obviously if, Oakland Mills Village comes into it, then I will, stick with our positions when it comes to the capital budget, which is, don't tinker with the order. If the funds aren't there, just push everything down the list until they are. Don't make it a Hunger Games things, where we're gonna say, oh, we don't have it, so we're gonna do something else. Build up so you have it. We don't need another one of those Talbot Springs High School 13 Hammond incidents where, to everyone's credit, they did not get the communities to turn on each other. It actually kind of strengthened the bond, and we all went in there together. Without saying a bad word about any of those projects, which is, what I hope would continue to happen. So I'll let you all know, what our questions are and how that goes. And
I have a question.
yes,
So the whole blueprint for Maryland thing,
Mhm.
are they trying to pull the budget, the funds for that? Is that gonna affect our high school?
So my understanding is, but I need to check in with someone, the built to learn component actually comes from, that actually comes from the Maryland Stadium Authority. And the built to learn funds have to be not only obligated, but I think spent within a certain window of time, which is why it made, no sense to defer Oakland Mills High because they would have lost the funds. So as long as all that remains true, then we could be okay. And I was happy to hear what what we heard tonight about, I'll be back in a couple of years to talk to you about Oakland Mills High School. So no, I've not heard that a project like that could be deferred. But remember that deferred maintenance is more than just the big renovations. It's, do we repave the lot at the school this year when it really needs it, or do we have to put that off? Now, all those things add up, right? Because at the high school and the middle school, the HVAC systems are the biggest ticket item, but what gets you to the $100 and whatever $1,000,000 it is now, it's a lot of things that start adding up. It's the even things like, the sidewalks leading up to the schools falling apart, stuff like that. So, there are things that can be done along the way that don't amount to a full renovation, that probably, if they would get done, would negate the need for such extensive renovations to these buildings. But it seems that we just kind of let everything go and then say, oh, the whole thing needs to be redone, and we redo the whole thing instead of maintaining as we go. And I'm not even necessarily blaming the school system for that, because there obviously there are funding issues, but I don't know exactly what he was referring to when he made that comment within the context of the operating budget, because that's normally capital. And then for some good news, if you hadn't seen or heard, because we met just shortly after, we didn't have the results. The Concert for Kids raised 7,000 for the kids campaign, so they're just short of 120,000 over the life of the Concert for Kids. And the Oakland Mills High Choir, along with JD Grizzle, the band director, Jeff Fink, the principal, and Edgar and Coleman, the choir director, were on WBAL radio. I want to say the morning of I think it was the Friday morning after our last board meeting. It all blends together in December with the holidays and everything. But they did a live performance on air out at Valley View Farms on the C4 and Brian Neiman show. And I have the quote here. The coolest part to me was they were just, gushing over how great this performance is. And C4 is set on the air to, I can't remember if he was talking to Dr. Fink or Mr. Grizzle, or maybe he was addressing all of them, because obviously it's radio. There was no video. But he said, and I actually wrote it, I've been to Broadway, I've seen Broadway, you are Broadway. And then they basically said, everyone listening to WBAL needs to be in Oakland Mills the first Saturday of next December. So, I mean, that was a nice reflection, not only on our sometimes beleaguered high school, but also on our, on our community. Because, the words Oakland Mills got repeated a lot of times on the air, and all in a very positive light. So that was very nice to hear. And I actually had a snow clearing comment, but you said you were already out and about and telling people about their responsibilities. There was just some chatter about this is not cleared, that's not cleared. The kids are climbing over snowbanks to get to school. So thank you for always being there to address those things. And that was a long bulletin board for me. I'll go to Karen now.
I don't think I have anything for the bulletin board. Just remember that the polar vortex is coming, so everybody
Yes.
stay warm.
And Andrew,
Nothing for me, except we do have to vote on architecture.
Yeah, that's coming
Place.
next.
Yeah.
yeah. And Warren?
Yeah, I do two things. We all, Patriot Lane has a water main this week. at the bottom, so that's very slidey. So, it's still leaking. I just got an email or a text about it. The other thing is there'll be a transportation open house on January 30th. And the things that concern Oakland Mills, it's going to be at the North Laurel Community Center on January 30th, 4:30 to 7:30. It's one of those, they set up easels and you can talk to people about it. Melonbrook Road, there will be a sidewalk. They're putting in a sidewalk, so you don't have to cross the street. It's like, doesn't make sense the way they do it now. So it's gonna go on the one side. And they're just gonna talk about it. I don't even know when that's gonna happen. The other one is the one I've been working on for 5 years or so. It's Maryland 108. The shared use pathway will between Red Branch and and Summer Hollow. That's supposed to come in this year. But we still need to have a connecting CA path.
Mhm.
And then the state will put in a crosswalk. But I plan to go to that on the 30th and find out what's going on with that. The other things on the topics about for that open house will be South Entrance Trail. I think that's supposed to start this year. And then there's also the Elkridge Main Street CSX pedestrian underpass. There's a pass. It'll make it much easier to get out of Columbia and out of, into Savage and that. I think it's a pretty important tunnel, but there's a lot of them, but those are the main ones that will be listed.
So remember, we were pleasantly surprised when we learned that there was going to be work on the intersection of Stevens Forest and Broken Land because of our pedestrian issues. I was hoping when they put that notice right there in the median, that was a sign that that was going to be part of the discussion. Have you heard any more about
I have not.
when that's going to start or what the plan is going to be?
No.
Okay, when I saw that sign, I thought, oh, I bet that's on the agenda. They strategically placed the sign right in that intersection, but no. Okay,
Quick to tell, slow to go.
yeah.
I'm sure Chris J will be at the meeting. I can ask him what the status is on that. That's a good one. Thanks. That's all I got.
So Warren, is that why the fire truck was down your street today? Cause I saw the big fire truck up the street. Was it for the water main break? They said it was on,
Probably.
okay, they said it went to Patriot Lanes that there were, but my mom thought it was a medical emergency. That's why I was asking, so.
It could have been because someone on the street slipped.
Oh,
goodness.
okay.
So. Because apparently it's just, it's like an ice, it's
I'm
very,
sure.
very slippery.
There was one, I don't know if you all noticed this, it was a few days ago. Down at the bottom of Stevens Forest Road, they had like one-way road signs. And they were actually using the path that connects into Owen Brown to allow vehicular access to, I think.
Yeah, it was
the
on
road
Sand
is-
Chain.
Yeah, and I think there was like a water main break at like Sand Chain and Gay Topaz.
Yes.
Which basically cut off the rest of that road from the road network, and they had a poor guy standing out there in the freezing cold, with his little sign for the, maybe one vehicle that was gonna pass through every 2 hours. But I saw the signs and I thought, what's going on here? What do they mean, like one lane, one-way road? This is Stevens Forest Road, and then I realized, oh, they're using the path so that vehicles can get in and out of
See, it
Owen
was like-
Brown over
In
there.
fact, Jeremy sent me an email about that the other day.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got one too, but it was kind of after the fact, so. I thought, well.
He should, if he's sending them out, he should send them to both, to everybody.
okay, well, yeah, I'm glad someone knew, because I was kind of wondering and sort of just figured it out by,
Yeah,
looking, I think I saw on C-Click Fix, oh, water main break at Gay Topaz, and I know where that is, and I thought that's what it is. You can't get into the rest of that community through Sand Chain Road.
Well, and a lot of what I do too is I'll go on Oakland Mills Village Facebook page and I'll go to the county and I'll share, because a lot of times they'll put them up.
Mhm.
But for whatever reason,
Yeah.
whether it was Facebook or whatever it was, but it came up again much after the fact, and I thought, well, that's not very helpful now, so.
All right. Thank you. I don't have a closed session form, or is it in Andrew's folder?
Yeah, this is a letter, but it's no.
Yeah, but we need to fill out the form to go into closed session.
No, we just.
Okay, all right. Everyone's gone. Okay, so I don't even have to say what we're about to do other than for the record, but
Well, I can. Stop recording. No, I guess until you.
no, we need the motion to go into closed session. So I can write things down while Amy gets it. So it's 8:26 and we need a closed session for matters pertaining to discussion. Is this employees and personnel this time? I thought this is architecture.
It's both.
Which,
What are we doing right now?
There's something.
Yeah, I know it, but
Isn't it this that we normally do because we're telling CA to? Or
yes.
it's not
yes.
employees and personnel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got my two glasses.
Okay,
Good.
all right, so, am I right? Am I right? Or do we have two things?
well, I thought, it was a continuation of the closed session from December 10th.
Oh, so,
So there were two things
Okay.
that would have been in close, if it's
but
not,
but
it's
we have to
fine.
give, now I know what we have to give both. We have to state both reasons, right? Okay,
Yes,
so the agenda should have said both. Okay, all right. So we have two reasons to go into closed session. One is for discussion of matters pertaining to employees and personnel. One is for consultation with staff, personnel, consultants, attorneys, or other persons in connection with pending or potential litigation. So is there a motion to go to closed session for those two items? I'll take a motion from Bill, second from Andrew, all in favor? All right, 400. So at 8:28, we are in closed session. And let's start, now we